Well, hello there, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. A big week coming up for Leeds United, taking on Sheffield United, and of course, the news of the San Francisco 49ers, Angus Kinnear, all this sort of stuff that we've been speaking about this week. We've got Gabe on the channel on Sundays. And yeah, listen, we've called it the hard line. So I hope you're enjoying the content. I've enjoyed the content of the last week or so as well. It will be building up again tomorrow as well when we head into the Sheffield United game, a huge game in Leeds United's calendar. As you can see on screen, we're sponsored by IPM Group UK. Everybody, make sure you're checking out all your CCTV and security needs. Keep it within the Leeds United community. Apologies, I've been off for like 3 or 4 days and I've lost the zip, so I've got Gabe back on to help me. Evening, hello everybody. What's going on? Here for it. How's it going? Hello, Gabe the American from Gabe the Canadian. Well, without any further ado, and he is the first box for this one. How you doing, mate? All good?
Yeah, man. Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Obviously, I told you off air, went away just for a weekend, with the missus. And I've come back, and suddenly, when you're not on camera, you've not got it set up. You try to get into your flow a little bit, and just not there yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you've only got half an Ellen roadside there. It just says Ellen on it.
That's it, mate. That's it. It's not just it's not just my vocab and delivery. It's my apparently it's my set as well.
The whole presentation as well. It's all just gone wrong. No, how was your trip to the Lake District though? Nice place.
It's
See,
good,
I can say nice things about a place in the UK. I'm doing it right now.
Well, this is character building for you, mate. You're getting yourself in sort of a good spot with some of the English and maybe even Scottish people who watch the channel. So there you go. Yeah, it's good, mate. I did watch the rugby game. England were playing Scotland in the Six Nation, and I was surrounded by Scottish people. So for about 80 minutes, I pretended I cared about rugby. So it was good, man.
Do you not care about rugby?
I sometimes doing the Six Nations on. I mean, I have actually seen 2 rugby matches live between the All Blacks and Australia. That was pretty cool. But I used to care about it a little bit more when I was younger. But nah, I mean, I care about it when Scotland are playing England because it's just always nice getting one over on Scotland. And I'm probably more of an Ireland supporter than an England supporter as well. Which I know
you always say that after you say something terribly nationalistic. You always come forward with, "Oh, I'm more of an Ireland supporter." But yeah. No, I think
when do I say
deep down, I do think you're quite the English nationalist.
I'm definitely not. I'm nationalist as well. Let's go with
starting with the slander. Let's get into Leeds United stuff before this gets off the rails too quickly.
Yeah, exactly, mate. 100%. Sorry, I think my Wi-Fi just went there. Gabe the American with toupee trumpy. I don't know what that means, mate. I don't know if you got that one, Gabe.
Gabe has 8 years of Trump jokes. I love it.
Yeah, Gabe has done more videos since he left the channel than when he was on the channel. Actually, not true.
I was on the channel every week for nearly 3 years, but I do like that people are like, "Who's this American?" After 3 years. Not you weren't saying it, Michael, but some people will say, "Who's this moron yank you've got on?"
Who is this guy? Right. Should we talk about the 49ers?
Yeah. So quiz time, Connor. I like to throw you unexpected questions just to rattle your bird cage a little bit. How many multi-club ownership groups are there in world football, do you think? Just if you had to, I'm not talking about like own a football club and then own a different sports franchise. I mean, own a potential competitor.
Just sports clubs or football clubs?
No, football clubs. Just football clubs.
100?
No. That's excellent guess. It's 15.
Wow. Okay.
And here's the deal. Like, I think that sometimes, because I saw some of the reactions people were having to this, and as Leeds United fans tend to do, we went to sort of conspiracy theory territory where it was, they're just, they're just gonna sell us off and own Rangers. Listen, City Football Club own 12 different football clubs and have a partnership with 2 more. So that's 14 different potentially competing interests. Obviously, we know about Red Bull 777. Do you know how many stakes they have? They have 5 majority 5 majority stakes and 2 minority stakes. That's a Miami-based investment firm, Pacific Media Group. We're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all different countries. Travella Group, they own Walsall FC, which is down in the lower divisions, obviously. Own a club in Ireland and Denmark as well. Here's my favorite that no one thinks of, these two. The ownership of Bournemouth. They own Bournemouth, obviously Bournemouth. They own a French club, a Portuguese club, New Zealand club, and Hibs. That's 5 different clubs. And nobody in the fan space is thinking, oh, do you know what? They're just doing this to cook up rich, sell the club, and then gut it for everything it's worth. I think we're overreacting a little bit. By the way, Sport Republic, Southampton's ownership, also owns a club in Turkey and France. So if anything, maybe Leeds United is starting to get with the times, because when you do this, it allows you to do more stuff with PSR. It allows you to have more revenue streams, be able to do some fancy accounting as City have done. And I'm not saying that we should do that, but from what I've seen, they've been cleared legally, haven't they? So maybe if it can get us contending in higher competitions than just the Premier League, maybe in Europe as well, I'm all for it. The reality is that this is a pretty common thing.
Yeah, I think I do wonder whether or not it's more the club. Obviously, they will be taking over Rangers. There's been news over, obviously, in San Fran at the minute that apparently they're ready to relinquish 10% ownership of the San Francisco 49ers, which would leave them with 9 billion quid. So it's going to give them a little bit of a packet to invest there as well. I do wonder if, you were just talking about European venture then, and obviously with the SPL, that it seems like from what you're reading up there from the Daily Record and Scottish Sun and all these bits that kind of we've heard on bits, heard briefly, I should say. People are saying, and journalists are suggesting that they want to sort of take over that pinnacle of Celtic. Now, that'll be a massive job, but obviously that would see Rangers maybe in the long term in a similar European competition to Leeds, which obviously isn't allowed. That's if Leeds get there, obviously. But
I think it's cart before the horse. I mean, Bournemouth's league position is much more advanced than ours. There is a world in which Hibs could get into a European competition. It's not very likely, but obviously that's a Scottish club. Look, I just think that people are jumping the gun a little bit, and sometimes we find a reason to do this. Woe is me. It's going to be bad again as a footballing fan base, and I think sometimes we just need to take a deep breath. If anything, more investment tends to be good. They're billionaires, so keep an eye on them. I'm not saying you trust them or start to lionize them as these great philanthropic people who want the best for whoever's hanging out at the Eldon pub out near the university in Leeds. I'm just saying that we don't need to get into this conspiracy spinning territory. And what I will tell you is, for an American ownership group to get involved with Rangers is a great idea, because there are lots of Scots here in the United States. There are lots of supporters clubs. It's a huge revenue generator for them. And I mean, when you think about it, I mean, there are parallels, not all of them, but there are parallels between the fan bases in some ways. From a global perspective, I think Leeds is the bigger club, but it's a good investment if you're buying Rangers now. And I don't see how this necessarily hurts us. And yeah, be suspicious, keep your eyes open, but the level of panic I saw and all the kind of spinning on it seems a little bit silly to me.
Well, we obviously Red Bull naturally come in conversation. You were just speaking about at the start ownership models, and maybe it's quite funny actually, isn't it, when it comes to expertise, that the Red Bull network or Red Bull were brought in for almost expertise, and then obviously you get the Niners looking to invest. And they have been looking to invest for a while. Apparently there was a Spanish club that they were looking at a couple of years ago, but people are drawing links with the 49ers and Red Bull now, and obviously expertise, and maybe there's been a little bit of a finger point into look at Rangers. Let's have why don't you have a look?
I think there's much more of a parallel between Sport Republic and Bill Foley than there is with 49ers and Red Bull, really. Like in terms of the parallels of the investment model, even the way they're doing their scouting, the way they're trying to build their network. I think there's more parallels there. I mean, if there's things in common, there's rich folks buying many clubs. That's the only thing, really. I think
Rangers are, once again, I think as well, people are maybe a little bit worried in terms of, I would say from what I've been seeing, people are maybe a little bit wary of it's almost where does their focus lie? But it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, what happens with Rangers. Leeds United in the Premier League is the biggest cash cow.
Yeah, but Connor, and you know this, I know you're kind of speaking on behalf of others, but this is what sometimes frustrates me about these conversations. Our fans do not seem to sometimes realize that ownership is not involved in the day-to-day running of a club. They're just not. They're not. They appoint people to do that stuff.
Well, yeah, right? So they kind of are involved, but yeah, I know what you mean.
But they are from you make a large move that moves for the next, that has ramifications for the next 6 months. But they're not. If you think that, Parag Marathe is hanging out in,
well, it's like the Glazers, isn't it? It's like the Glazers.
No,
they've been to Manchester.
But that's an extreme example, right?
Yeah.
And the Glazers hire like hundreds of people that are doing nothing, and then you know what I mean. So it's like that. I just think if people think that Sport Republic is super involved in the running of Southampton, nobody thinks that. Why do we think then that? Why do we always talk about the 49ers Consortium Group as like every decision that's made at the club, they sat down at a table with the people they've appointed to make these decisions and said, yes. No, it's just not the way that works at a high level. So, and look, at the end of the day, let's just look at that City Football Group. Obviously, Manchester City is their most important priority, right? I mean, you'd say that. But Manchester City, New York City FC, Melbourne City, Yokohama in Japan, Girona in Spain, a Uruguay club that I can't pronounce, a club in China that's quite big in China, Mumbai City in India, Lommel SK in Belgium, a French club, another Italian club, a Brazilian club.
I made a very similar video on it right at the beginning. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I think it's I completely understand. I have no problem with it. I have absolutely no problem with it whatsoever.
I want our fan base to wrap their heads around that, like that they're not. An owner is not is not a director of football. Like that's the day-to-day person you have to have in there. That's like really doing a good job. It's why the manager appointment is so important, because it's more than just managing the team. Obviously they're accountable to the ownership group, but they're probably having like monthly or quarterly meetings to check on the club financials and see how major decisions that have been made have gone out. They're not doing much more than that.
Do you think there's been, I think there's been a lot more of an aggressive stance toward the 49ers since Red Bull have come on board? Do you get that feel? I get that. I get the feel from like a general standpoint, obviously doing this and being very aware of obviously the fan base. I think it's, for me, it seems to have stepped up a level in terms of like anxiousness, referring to the 49ers and their sort of end goal when it's come to bringing on Red Bull. And obviously Leeds got the most lucrative sponsorship in championship history, worth apparently 60 to 70 million quid, which only Leeds could do in the championship. And then obviously you've got the other side of it. Leeds were selling assets, weren't they? Look, this is that's not Red Bull, but Red Bull were brought in a very similar time frame to when Leeds were getting rid of Archie Gray. Some of it, I just think there's and the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I think there's context. I wonder if all of these assumptions would have been made about X, Y, Z, and we saw a lot of hypotheticals, people just conjuring hypothetical after hypothetical after hypothetical.
That's the real issue. That's the real issue.
I think there is that. I think when people are coming from, and it's they could be right in the long term, but I think when you start getting into hypotheticals, it kind of teeters a little bit on sort of, is that you or is that me?
It is me. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah. Okay. It might just be like, is there?
It's nothing with a computer. I think it's.
Right.
I've had an issue with plumbing. It keeps making this screeching noise. It's driving me crazy. It's the downstairs loo.
But I just didn't know if it feels like it stepped up a little bit. Maybe it's because we're in the championship. There's other things to be taken into that context, but it just feels since Red Bull's come on, and we obviously know what's happened with their group, especially when you look at Salzburg in particular and the problems they've had. I think that's where being in bed with Red Bull is kind of the tag that the Niners are.
Listen, there have been. We've not discussed this. I'm going to say this is just my opinion. There have been some members of the Leeds United online ecosystem that know how these things work better than others and have still decided to feed into this idea that there are corrupt things happening behind the scenes and that, it's inevitably going to lead to Red Bull FC in Leeds. And honestly, there's just no evidence for it. None. And what's funny is if you look at the valuation of the club, and the financial reports are published more than this, but you can get a hold of them annually. You can see it's pretty self-evident that Red Bull does not have a controlling stake in Leeds United. They don't even have a largest minority stake in Leeds United, right?
Yeah,
so
you check out yourself as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't understand. I get like the average fan who's worried about putting food on the table and isn't necessarily thinking about venture capitalism, like I get that. Like, I totally understand that. What I don't understand is certain people feeding into the narrative intentionally. I think because it sells their merch. It drives me crazy. That kind of fear mongering, or this like, oh, why is it always us? It's a good thing. Listen, I don't drink Red Bull. I think it tastes terrible. I'm not into. I don't want us to be a Red Bull club. But do you remember the overreaction that happened when the shirts were put out? Those shirts look good. I don't care what anybody says. They look good. I just think sometimes that there's an element in this fan base that wants a reason why we're getting screwed. And it's not a majority thing. Football is inherently a corrupt industry. And you sort of have to, if you're going to be any good at it, you have to be able to have marriages of convenience, right? But the idea that one of the wealthiest ownership groups in the world, which is 49ers Enterprise, let's get it right. They are they're not city wealthy. They're not, but I mean, they're comparable to the Fenway Group in terms of the money they have to mess with. So the idea that we're going to get some kind of Manchester United is doing it now. They brought in Jim Ratcliffe as this like effigy of a decadent past, as if because he's English and a billionaire, he's going to suddenly be everyone's best friend. The guy, I don't think he's doing much better. So there's no profile of owner that's ever going to. I do think that some of the criticism is ramped up, but I think there are two things that cause it. Number one, it's whenever a headline gets made, then we start talking about it, or whenever it's transfer season, because people are convinced that the 49ers are just fleecing the club no matter what business they do. And then it's whenever certain elements of the fan base decide, it's been a while since we had a controversial podcast. Let's do that.
Yeah. I think, I do wonder where it sort of stemmed from with the 49ers. So I think overall they've done a good job, and kind of it does feel like when you come on here and kind of try, like I've done it before, and I get accused of, I don't know, being in bed with them, which I guess is a
oh yeah, we get paid by the 49ers. That's why I moved to San Francisco. Parag comes around here. I serve him a glass of scotch. He hangs out on the couch.
That's it. Yeah, it'd be nice. Awesome. It would be nice if we got like nice exclusive interviews through them and all this sort of stuff. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. That would be lovely though.
And all these the same folks, by the way. And I know we got to move on to the match in a second here, so I don't want to just keep talking about this. But listen, I mean, nobody in our fan base is saying, "Hey, do you know what, Leicester? What a bunch of corrupt." I mean, King Power International. What a bunch of corrupt, terrible, horrific owners. They also own two clubs. Do you know what I mean? So it's like there's this kind of, Redbird Capital Partners, right? They own Toulouse and AC Milan. This model's becoming more common than not. And never mind what you were alluding to earlier, the groups like the Henry Group or Fenway Group that own multiple clubs across different sports. That's even more common. That probably would number in the hundreds. So the idea that, this is somehow something that's uniquely happening to us and it's going to be this horrific outcome. I get it. We have a partnership with a brand that has a reputation for sterilizing clubs, but they haven't been able to do it. They haven't been able to do it across the world. They have more partnerships than they have ownerships. That's the thing. They partner with different sports all across the country. They don't get to reclaim their titles.
And I've just never understood why. If I'm the 49ers Enterprise now, and this might change, but if I'm Parag and co, I'd be thinking, look, if we get this club back to the Premier League, which is the first goal, obviously bringing a manager in, investing in the squad. Okay, it didn't happen. Yeah, I feel like the 49ers are massively about long-term goals. I get that feel with Parag, but short-term goals are huge as well. I feel like they've, apart from promotion last season, which I do wonder if penny for their thoughts at that period, if they genuinely thought it was realistic with the turnover of the squad in that first season. I don't think they will have done as realistic. That was probably, beyond what they expected in terms of how many players we had to turn over, players that we had to bring in towards the back end of the window. Daniel Farke coming in, will he hit the ground running? Blah, blah, blah. So redo the squad in a sense. 4 of your best players have gone. Then the recruitment in the summer, which was just outstanding, put us in a position right now going into this game tomorrow where we are ahead of the 3 parachute payment teams that have come down. I think right now they've done a really good job. And a lot of people, obviously, who support Daniel Farke as we do, but really support Daniel Farke above anything else. Sometimes I think they forget that the 49ers identified Daniel Farke and brought Daniel Farke in. So, you know, if
and some would even say gave him more rope than other ownerships would. I mean, you say maybe there's some skepticism about going up. I think that's retroactive narrative. That squad last season, with how good it was, should have gone up, right? So to give Daniel Farke another year, I think was nice. You know, it was generous, right? I'm not saying he should have been sacked. I'm just simply saying some ownerships wouldn't have done that. Connor, can you take me off for a second? I'm going to run and there's a switch I can flip to turn that sound on.
Right,
absolutely doing my head in. Segue us into Sheffield.
I will do. Right, guys. Well, we'll get into a few comments before we get back onto it. We heard him bleeping for a little bit there. I hope you weren't completely put off by that. Hello, everybody. By the way, hello. I thought that'd be a really nice chat with Gabe as well, because from his perspective, and before we get into Sheffield United game, from his perspective, it's interesting from out in the States because Gabe is very well versed and well intertwined with that sort of economic standing. And you know, when you're looking at your businesses out there, it's interesting to get his take. I've been trying to get him on the channel, but I thought Sunday was perfect. But yeah, it's nice to just get an overarching perspective. I've seen a lot of hysteria and panic, so it's sort of nice to, you know, sort of mellow down a little bit and just be all as one and all be sort of pedaling towards the same goal, which is promotion and then hopefully further prosperity. Hey, mate, just getting into a few comments. A lot of people are panicking about a multi-billion-pound company taking over another company. It happens all the time. Jez says Rangers fans won't admit, but they will never have the pull they did 25 years ago. I will say, Jez, is Rangers are massive. I think probably Leeds are a little bit more global, but Rangers are massive in Scotland, and I do think they're a big club. I would say Leeds is global attractions, maybe a little bit more. That's maybe a little bit of bias in there, but I would say that. Phil says, "Hi Connor and Gabe, just smash a like for you, good man." Gabe, you live there? Can you knock on the door and ask what's going on?
Live there.
There you go. Live there. Sorry. I'm still hoping they sell at some point to a rich fan or a sultan. A sultan. Well, yeah, maybe, mate. Maybe. Jess says, who would have thought 25 years ago how big City would become playing at Main Road? Fans have it confused. The big one to mention as well is Marianakis, you know, Nottingham Forest, and obviously Olympiacos won, I believe it was the Europa League, I think 2 years ago now, and there is going to be a bit of a conflict of interest there, so it's going to be interesting how he, you know, marries that up, because obviously Forest get into the Champions League. I don't know if Olympiacos are going to be in it next season as well. They might well be, but that's going to be interesting because obviously UEFA don't allow that. So
pull up that comment you just got rid of real quick, because this dude said something really good.
Was it here or was it Jazz?
The Jerry Jones comment.
Jerry Jones. I didn't even know I put a Jerry Jones comment up.
Yeah, you put it up and then you took it down really quick.
Did I? Right. Sorry. Damn, I can't see it. I can't see it. Sorry, mate. Sorry.
Oh dear.
Danny's gifted a 1 Leeds membership as always. Danny, top man. Oh no, sorry, I can't find it. Oh, it's really annoying.
Basically, what you said is that some people have the wrong idea. They think about they think American football team ownership, and they think of this guy Jerry Jones in the States wearing 3 different titles, overseeing, have a say in every decision. This guy's got it right on. Most owners don't do that over here. There's one really famous football owner, and I do think that has sort of, it's the Dallas Cowboys owner. Which, by the way, do you know how, like, I didn't realize the Dallas Cowboys were as valuable as they are. It's absurd. Yeah. But yeah, this is exactly right. Anyway, we can move on to Sheffield United now, but I just wanted to point out it's a very good comment.
Let's do it. Right, Sheffield United. And I'll just say this. Guy says, who cares about the 49ers are doing or buying? Wake up, Connor, talk about it.
We're talking about the team. What do you want us to say? Talk about the team.
Guy, we've done honestly, mate, we've done about 40 videos on Sheffield United this week. I've never done previews like I have done Sheffield United. So if you don't want to hear this, mate, just go somewhere, go and have a look at the other videos.
Who cares about the 49ers? Like, they don't own the team.
Yeah, they've got a bit of a big impact, but we'll get on it, mate. We'll get onto it. Right, boy. Okay. Sheffield United, Burnley, absolutely hammering Sheffield Wednesday on Friday night. I think it's their second biggest scoreline of the season. Slightly worrying, maybe for some, that Burnley have started scoring goals, which is a bit like
one off. It's happened one time.
Yeah, the XG didn't completely married up with Sheffield Wednesday as well. I think it was 1.83 to Burnley. It was something like 1.71 to Sheffield
I think
Wednesday.
Scott Parker's going to be upset that they scored goals. He's going to be like, "Now, guys, this is not the way we play.
And they were
Let's
really
get back
good
on the training ground, run some laps."
Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday were really good first half, but it was interesting how
Wow.
Benson came on. Marcus Edwards obviously came on, who's he's got a couple of goals from that. I don't know how he's at this level. It's ridiculous. Burnley worrying you at all, Gabe, or nada?
Nope.
Okay, even though they're only 5 points behind us, talk to me.
It all comes down to what happens when we play Sheffield United. Because when you look at the rest of the schedule that we have, obviously there's a Middlesbrough game that can go a number of different ways. They're a very inconsistent team. When they play well, they can be hard to handle, as we experienced in the Cup. But when I look at our remaining schedule after Sheffield United, I'm not particularly intimidated. And I think that if we go away from home and beat Sheffield United, for me, I said it last week, it's our litmus test. There's ways that they can get at us. I still think we're going to win. By the way, let's give each other some credit here, Connor. Last week we called verbatim 2-1 over Sunderland, with Sunderland giving us a game until about the 75th minute, but their lack of depth wouldn't take them over. We called that game. We don't do this very often where we give ourselves credit openly and brazenly on here, but yeah, well done. I'm going to predict this one too. I think Leeds are going to win. It's either going to be an ugly 1-0 or a Sheffield are with us most of the match, and we break it open in the 85th minute, and it's a 3-1 Leeds victory. I'm confident. It's going to be tough. They're a good team, but it's either going to be they're going to have us play their game, and they're going to play for, or they're going to unsuccessfully have us play for their, and we're going to run riot on them. I don't think it's going to be a very equal match. It's either going to be exactly the match they want, which is ugly and takes us kind of out of it. Very, very physical, lots of fouling, some yellow cards. And even then, I still think we can win and should win that game. Or it's going to be Leeds running riot on Sheffield United. So let's see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I was sort of maybe not cockily, but I was quite brash about Leeds going there and winning a couple of weeks ago. And I still do think, we've got that in our locker. I just wonder, Gabe, how far
you're a roller coaster.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I just wonder what he's going to do. I wonder what he's going to do because I maybe just think to myself that it's, we've seen Daniel Farke go places before and shut up shop, and I just wonder. I think there's certain selections in midfield in particular where I think we're going to get quite an interesting picture on what he's.
You mean if he starts Gruev next to Tanaka? Specifically, you mean that?
Yeah, probably.
With Ampadu at center half. I think, listen, we saw it. We saw it against Sunderland, right? I mean, Ampadu is a very, very good central midfielder, and he's a serviceable center half, but there are vulnerabilities. I think it's time to get Pascal back in the team, and you either go with Tanaka and Rothwell or Tanaka and Ampadu. It's hard to go wrong.
I think defensively, I
know what you're going to say. And by the way, people talk about the 49ers paying you off. I think we need to check your accounts for Ethan Ampadu paying you off. You are the biggest Ethan Ampadu fan I've ever met. And it's nice because he's a Leeds United player. But you're not even considering Rothwell with Tanaka, given the job that we gave to Sheffield United earlier this season. No, I'm curious to know. We outplayed them so thoroughly.
But you're not asking a question there. You're making a statement as if that's what I've said.
I'm about to ask you if you agree with what I'm casting. We beat them so thoroughly before. We dominated them in every phase of the game. Do you not want to see that same midfield pairing do it again? Or do you think away from home it's that much of a different game?
Yeah. No, look, 100%. I think the only thing about my major worry toward the back end of the Tanaka-Rothwell partnership was it wasn't as defensively assured as people were making out. It wasn't. It got to a point of which other midfields were breaching Tanaka and Rothwell, and they were doing it not on the regular as such.
No, they happened once or twice. No, but we've only lost 3 matches all year.
No, I understand that, but teams were still breaking through that midfield line a little bit easy, Gabe. It wasn't as tight as it was at the beginning, where it was.
If you mean we're not controlling 70% of the possession every match and limiting all chances on goal, yeah, I do agree that it was. I just think that's an unrealistic standard to carry all season.
No, I understand
that was going to happen.
But I think you need to have in that midfield, you need to have a balance. I think you need to have a balance, and I think against Sheffield United, you need to have that. And Leeds had that before. I completely understand that. Look, I'm very much the person who has been there with a shield when it's come to Rothwell, as you know, all season, because people talking about how, he can't defend, he's not good here, not good there. It's just absolute rubbish. At this level, he's extremely good.
He's
I think at Premier League level, there's a definite conversation to have there. But at this level right
with
now,
all our midfielders, sans Tanaka, in my opinion. But that's my hot take. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's very, very close for me right now, because it's very, very tight as a ball playing midfielder on the ball, being able to dictate the tempo between Ampadu and Rothwell. All the stats on Twitter and everything, people who just seem to think Ampadu rules the roost in that respect. It really, for me, isn't the case via the eye test. When I watch Rothwell, when I watch Ampadu, there is a genuine conversation that in games from the midfield, Rothwell impacts more. He has
Rothwell
more
powers towards the defenders more than Ampadu does.
Yes, but he's very different. He's very different. He's a very different midfielder.
It's picking between really good midfielders at this level. I think the issue you have is that Ampadu's been playing out of position for a while, and that does matter. It is very difficult when you're facing another quality opponent. And for whatever, we can say whatever we want, but when we look at the form table, look at the actual table itself, Sheffield United is an opponent, even though I think we're better than and think we should be, we have to respect and take very seriously. And I think maybe it's a lot to ask to have Ampadu coming and playing center half to just jump into this match. Somebody said in the comments that they expect Ampadu to start with Gruev. And you know what's crazy? I would normally say that's nuts, like Farke would do. I could see Farke doing it now that they're both fit again. I hope he doesn't, especially in a away match. I really hope he doesn't, but he could. He could.
But I think what you've said is a really good marker, and I brought that up on several chats I've had about this game. I kind of weirdly, because now we're looking at a situation, by the way, where Solomon could be out for this game. So you're immediately looking at either Ramazani or Nonso. We can have a conversation about that. That goes back to that
Better
game.
Be Ramazani.
But we go back to that game, don't we, at Ellen Road, where Ramazani was sort of operating off that left-hand side, and then in the midfield, you had Rothwell, you had Tanaka, obviously Strauch was at the back with Rodon. Do you try emulate? Do you try get as close to that team? That's where I was coming from with Sunderland a little bit. How we were able to take the ball off them for 70 minutes. And I know, look, games change. Players like Enzo Lafie was part of that performance. He wasn't part of the Sunderland performance at the stadium. We had different factors involved there as well. But in terms of selection, but for example, in that previous game against Sunderland, Gabe, it was the exact same thing. Ramazani and Nonso started in that game. Now we've got James and Solomon as a solid partnership on the wings. Now it's changed again. But do you try emulate? Do you try get as close to that game where it was almost pitch perfect against Sunderland in a sense, but that's already happened. But Sheffield United, do you try to get close to that,
I sort of think you just go with the guys that seem to be in the best form and who are playing together the best and try to keep as much momentum as possible. I think that it's painfully obvious to me that Pascal needs to be starting in defense. I don't understand. I think it's because there's a correlation between us going on a winning run and Ampadu in center half. It has happened 2 years in a row now.
No,
but we didn't go. We're not going on that run because he's in that position, And go on. Did you kill your audio?
Sorry, mate, I just cleared it. Yeah, hold on. People were saying, sorry, I'm just going to connect it now. People were saying as well last time that I was cutting you off a little bit, so I apologise for that. I don't think I've done that as much. I've been conscious about it. I'm just trying to add to Gabe's point.
Cutting me off.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever been. If anything, I love cutting you off.
Yeah. But I was saying about Ampadu, Gabe, actually going into that Sunderland game, and this is look, the Sunderland game, I did quite well with my predictions. I can't believe it, but I said the problem with, and I'm going to use this word again, pinning him. If you've got a stronger, more physical striker on the pitch, that I cannot believe Coventry didn't do it. I mentioned this 150 times with Ellis Sims. He leaned on Rodon instead of leaning on Ampadu. As a former,
if they had Sims and Haji Wright in that game together, they would have caused problems for Ampadu.
100%, and that's what I was saying with Isidore. Isidore was smart enough, and not only was it a fantastic finish and a brilliant goal, but it was Gabe, it was the simplest ball ever, just a chip ball over the midfield.
I don't know what he was doing either. Like again, it's very different to mark players in the midfield than to be the last defender on a striker. And when I looked at the way, I mean, he wasn't even defending him. He was just wrapping him up, hoping like he either concedes a penalty or he gets skinned.
Yeah. Well,
And I didn't understand. I was like, this is a guy that doesn't play center half, and he's able to cover in because his positional awareness is so good, and he's good at moving the ball. But he's not a good center half. He's a serviceable center half. And so when you don't have him, when you don't need to have him in that position anymore, get him out. Get him out of that position. I don't want him off the pitch. There's an argument to be had about who you start in midfield, and it's an embarrassment of riches there. But at this point, anybody's still arguing for Pascal Struck to be out of the team. I don't get. You've got an agenda, and I don't know what it is. It's weird.
I think
just not like the pirate look. I mean, I don't understand what it is about him. Is it that his face is too demure? Like,
well, you've got
what is it?
There's no like you can't make the argument. You cannot make the argument anymore.
No.
I don't. And
there's no coherent argument for it.
Well, unless it's just the fact that he's the captain, is a little bit more vocal. Maybe that's it. But on the ball, off the ball at centre back, I mean, he gets us so many goals as well from set pieces. He's our only threat. I mean, he scored against this last time out as well, and they posed no threat.
Still so woefully. How we've only lost 3 matches with set piece play the way we have is pretty unbelievable. Just shows how good we are with the ball at our feet.
So for you and everyone in the comments as well, let us know. Ramazani comes in for Solomon because it looks like Solomon's going to be out for this one, or is it not? Or would you go with Nonto? So give it, why would you not go with Nonto? I guess Nonto's done quite well when it comes to assists this season. I think he's
but he's done so from the right. I know that you and Oscar have this idea of Nonto on the left. 85% of his career matches he's played on the right, or he's played as a false 9. Very rarely on the left. Less than 10 times for Leeds United on the left. In his career, even fewer, obviously, for his international ventures. For me, Ramazani is a much more natural play at that position, and Dan James has been so good. I'm not dropping him, and Dan James can't play left. So for me, it's pretty simple. Ramazani goes in, and to be honest, I haven't seen enough from Nonto when he's come on. I mean, occasionally, like obviously he's gotten the goal here and there, but I need to start someone from the beginning. I trust Ramazani to be more dialed in, especially on that left-hand side for 90 minutes than Nonto. So that's who I'm going with.
Okay, cool. Let's get into a few comments. I think some of you guys just arguing between yourselves or having a conversations. Andy's in the building. Yeah, hi Andy, how's it going, mate? Evening, fellas. Do think Leeds win tomorrow? Better in key areas needed for us up the Clarets. Obviously, Burnley. Yeah, it's what I'm saying, and it's interesting. We've got a Sheffield United comment here from I think Jim's chat. I think Leeds fans are more nervous than they are letting up. I think it's probably more problematic for you guys, mate. If I'm honest with you,
Stephen, is that like local Sheffield pronunciation of Leeds? Is there like an area where they say L is a W?
Well, the big thing is, it's like W's a win, isn't it? So we'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it. We'll take that W. But
to his actual. I will say this. I think that I get pelters in the comments about it. They'll be like, "Oh, Gabe's a secret Sheffield United fan." I'm not. But when I look at where we're weak in the air. We only win 47.5% of our aerial challenges. We're weak on set pieces, and we're not a particularly physical team. Right. So if you are Sheffield United, you think, all right, let's make this a personal chippy affair. We'll foul them a lot because they're probably not going to score on corners or on free kicks. And ultimately, let's try to nab a goal here or there. Let's just take some shots on their keeper and see what happens. If they do beat us or draw with us, that'll be how they do it. I don't think they will, but there's a real opportunity for them.
Well, good luck. Good luck. I mean, they tried to do that in the first game, if you remember, when they were spending more time trying to disrupt melee.
Different doing it at home though than it is away.
It's going to be a very different game, just literally because it's at Bramall Lane. It's going to be a different game because it's at Bramall Lane. That's it. I think at Ellen Road, it's I don't know, maybe the similar story.
Frank says weed. Someone has been drinking the canal water.
I only see Strauch being on the bench, being centre back covered, whilst Wobley is out injured. Okay. I don't know what you mean there, mate. Or are you over here? Are you saying Strauch's third choice there? I don't really know. Rothwell had his first good game in about 10. I think it's 4 assists this season. Does he do much apart? Jace, do you know what, Jace? Jace, it's an interesting point as well, because I actually think there is a genuine conversation with Rothwell for being one of the best impact subs you could bring on at this level, because what's so beautiful about Rothwell is at any point in the game, he will get the ball and move, and he drives. He doesn't care what standard of opposition he's coming up against. He will get the ball. And do you know what the big thing is? He doesn't hide. Unfortunately, against Sunderland, Greve was hiding. He was hiding from the ball. He was hiding. He was falling back into a back three. He wasn't trying to be proactive like he has been post injury, in my opinion. And as soon as Rothwell came on, he's getting the ball, and everything is forward. Everything is forward, and he's brave on the ball. And I really like that side to his game. So for me, there's a conversation. Look, if he is on the bench, and if he doesn't start ahead of Ampadu or it's obviously Tanaka, but even if it is Greve being in there, Rothwell being on the bench is a flipping good option. It's like another attacker. It's another attacker to just throw on. So it's very, very important. John says, great show, lads. I can see Greve and Byram starting. He's off to stink the place out. Well, I hope not, mate. I hope not. Start Ramazani. I think he can cause problems. He will. I did last time, didn't he? So
this reminds me of that conversation where we were chatting about Oscar was chatting about Jamie Shackleton being the creative hub of the team. That is your that's this year's version of Byram starting over Junior Firpo for you.
Yeah, definitely. You should do a watch along, Connor, with Jimmy as you did with Jimmy. Mate, there's no way I'm doing a watch along with him. He's absolutely insufferable, so I can't do it. This is a guy who's somehow got 6 Sheffield United players in to a combined 11. The most anti Leeds fan you'll ever meet.
You're too gracious to let him get away with that.
Mate, I tried. I mean, at one point, he was saying Tyrese Campbell. Look, I don't mind Peru. I don't mind him. But I actually got to a point where I was like defending Peru as if he was my son.
Yeah, because if you're saying Tyrese Campbell over Peru, there's a couple screws missing in your brain.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Nonsense.
So yeah, I mean, I wonder how this is going to go tomorrow. I mean, as it's getting closer, Gabe, my head and my heart have two different sort of feelings right now. My heart is saying Leeds win the game 2-1. My head is saying that it's a nailed on draw. A draw is nailed on. I mean, would you take a draw?
It's not a bad result. I think that, listen, anything can happen in this division. And this is why I think it's really important to win. If we win this game, I have confidence that we're going up and probably as champions.
Yeah.
If we don't, if we lose or we draw, we're a couple weird results away. We need to create some distance between
I agree.
us.
I agree.
We just have to. For as good as we've been, for as excellent as the numbers have been, when you look at the actual table, the distance isn't that great. So we need to create some distance. So, last year, did I think we were going to drop a result of QPR in the backstretch of the season? No, I didn't, but we did, right? So, we're playing these teams like Portsmouth coming up and Preston, Oxford. We're playing these teams. We think these should be in the W column. You have to play who's in front of you and not look ahead. We have to take, and if we can't go away and they are a good team, but I do think we're better. If we can't go away and win, I'm not going to feel confident that we're going to win the league until it actually happens. You can put a lot of my anxieties at rest by winning away.
It's very unlike Leeds, though, isn't it? It's Leeds going and just taking it away from the opposite. Leeds always.
Well, that's the point, though. They need to show us that there's something different this time. So we're not going to be that team saying, "Oh, we didn't go up, but we had a great stretch in the season where it looked like we would." I'm not interested in doing that as a fan base or talking about, well, we only didn't go up because it was a historical season where all these points. It doesn't matter if we had 90 points. We didn't go up. The only thing I care about is getting promoted to the next division. It's winning. I want to win.
What do you think? What do you think he'll do? I think he's going to go defensive.
But what does that look like?
I think he's going to go for a point.
But what does that look like? Does it look like he goes with Ampadu and Gruev in the midfield? If he does that, yeah, it's going to be a draw. 100%.
Yeah, that'd be.
I can't see that happening. I hope. Well, the thing is, I'm bringing it up because I can see it happening. I don't remember who in the comments said it, but it was on one hand I was like, "Ha!" and then I was like, my smile faded because I knew it was a possibility.
Well, just one thing as well. Can I just say? And I know they're going to be up for it. I get that they're going to be up for it, and we have to be honest, Gabe. Like it's Chris Wilder. It's Leeds United. He cannot stand Leeds United. We've seen this story before. Kelvin's just said, and Kelvin's a Burnley fan, Bramall Lane was a fortress this season until Burnley turned up. We've softened them up for you. This Leeds team will win tomorrow. And since then, they have beaten Portsmouth 2-1, of which, Gabe, I watched that game.
Terrible match.
But it was the most one-sided game, and it was all Portsmouth. Two open goals. They hit the crossbar, I think, a couple of times. They just battered Sheffield United. Sheffield United won, and that is the hallmark, obviously, of a good team. But I was looking at their last 6 games, Gabe, and they have played one team outside the bottom 8.
Well, and they lost 3-0 to Hull at home, and they barely beat Luton, who's disastrous this season. And that happened last week. So,
and Derby as well. They just beat them. Don't get me wrong; they're getting the results, but I would say in their last like sort of 8 to 10 weeks, is the only good performance they've had is Middlesbrough at home. But I guess the obvious thing with this is the best team out of the lot that they've faced recently has been Middlesbrough, and it was at home. So I am maybe expecting, and it was under the lights as well in an evening game. Not that means anything, but the crowd.
Well, they did. Let's give them some credit. They did beat Sunderland. This is their last 10. I mean, look, I'm finding reasons to not count them out, and you shouldn't. We need to respect them. There's going to be a lot of vitriol in this match, obviously, because of the fan bases. But this is a match I think we should win. And I'm not going to accept a draw if I think we should win a match. That's just how it is.
Well, Martin's right here. They'll raise their game. But the thing is, Martin, we've had this for years now, but we should have enough. We should have enough, in my opinion. Even if they try raise their game, we should have enough to beat them.
I want our mentality to not be playing for a draw. I want our mentality to go into their house and kill them. That's what I want. Yeah. So if I see us line up with some stupid mid-block, I will be a little bit annoyed.
Paul said to me as well, I'm sure you said before Sunderland game that we'd win both. I think we both did. Yeah, I think we had 2-2-1. Oh, I know I had 2-2-1s.
I had a 3-1 with Sheffield United. I had a 3-1. Yeah, so I'm going to stick with that.
I was definitely more worried about the Sunderland game, but I know that could blow up in my face completely tomorrow, so we'll have to wait and see. But you
were intensely. You tend to be more confident the further the match comes away, and then when it comes close, you tend to be.
That is exactly right. You've nailed that. You have nailed that.
You start thinking about it a little bit more. You're like, anything could happen. This is football.
I'm thinking as well about the amount of clips that are going to be made up of me, because I know I've got about 850 Sheffield United fans on my arse, ready for Leeds to lose. So I don't think I'll be logging on, to be honest, for a couple of days if they do beat us. But
you should do a short bit where you ask your missus to name Sheffield United players, and then watch that go viral. Because I guarantee there wouldn't be one.
She struggled to figure out where Sheffield is on a map, to be honest with you. So I think that'd be a bit of a stretch. These will suit us. These will suit us more than Sunderland, says Ian. Sheffield United are mid. We beat Sunderland, and we really. This is the thing, isn't it so weird, Gabe? Right? How football works, right? Every time I've watched Sunderland, mate, and I don't know if you've seen this in any other sport, and I guess it could be sort of almost similar to Bielsa's Leeds. Every single time I've watched Sheffield United, I look at them and I go, how? How are they second? And then I watch Sunderland, and for so many games, I think I've seen at least a dozen of their games this season. I've looked at them in so many games and I've gone, they look really good. I
have a theory about this.
Crazy.
In years past, I think Leeds United fans would have honored more graft and consistency, but Bielsa ball spoiled this fan base into thinking that the best football is the pretty football. And so that's what ultimately wins out in the end. I hate to tell you this. It does not always happen.
No,
sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. But ultimately, I'm going to trust consistency, data over time, stuff over time, what teams do over time. I don't care if you've won 15 matches in a row, 1-0.
Sheffield United aren't even doing that, mate. Sheffield United, even when you look
they're
at the
2 points behind. What was it? 1 or 2 points behind us?
No, you just mentioned data. So I'm talking about if you actually look at the data
across the season.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, XG, touches in.
But I'm talking about the data of wins over time. That is the most important metric in football. So you can do the, I'm not saying you're doing this, but you could do the Jesse Marsh thing and say, look at all the underlying data outside of the wins column. This tells you we're better than we are. But ultimately, what I'm looking at is Sunderland don't win as many games because they're inconsistent.
No, and that's true. That is true.
And Sheffield United win more games because they're more consistent. They find ways to win the game. So I think that we're more consistent with winning right now, but not by much. Not by much.
No,
We just lose fewer games. That's all.
Yeah, no, I think they've won more games than us right now. We've just lost less.
Is it not draw? Is it not tied? I thought it was tied.
No.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. We've only lost 3. They've lost 6. So I think that's what it comes down to. But Andy's differences are so marginal.
Yeah, Andy's and this is the whole thing, Gabe. This is what I was referring to earlier. The metrics back up the fact, and it backs the eye test that they've just not been playing well, but they still win. So they still win. They've got enough quality.
And you're still good, by the way. We're still gonna get comments of, Gabe, this isn't the NFL. Stats don't matter. Even though I've literally just said, like, we're still gonna get those. But no, Andy is right. I do think that. Look, I've seen teams. Middlesbrough is like this. I've seen Middlesbrough play brilliant football this season. I've seen it more than once, and I'm like, wow, what a job Carrick has done. And then I look at some results he's gotten. I'm like, oh my god, you know what I mean? It's well, talent and when you're playing well, if that's not who you are every week, then it's not who you are. That's just an aberration. You know,
no, it's like a quote. If anyone wants to write that down, I'll put that on my wall. Paul says, I'm more worried about next season. Do you know what the difference is, Paul? Strikers. That's the difference. All the successful teams that go up, really, who we compare ourselves to, have gone up with very decent strikers.
Well, strikers and defenders. I also think center halves really matter.
Strikes are the big one. Scoring goals is absolutely huge in the Premier League. And if you don't have a good striker, you might as well just sign your death warrant right now.
We had Rodrigo with like 15 goals, but we had a defense as woeful as any I've ever seen. When we were in the Premier League that last season. For me, that's why we went down. It's not because we didn't score enough goals. It's because we just conceded. Like, it was absurd. But yes, strikers are incredibly important.
Huge. Absolutely huge.
What's funny is you were a midfielder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I speak as a center half. You speak as a midfielder that wanted to be a striker. I could tell.
Yeah.
You wish you could have scored the goals. I
reverted because I didn't score enough goals.
They basically said you're not allowed to play striker anymore.
Yeah. Even when I was, my dad used to be the manager of my 7-a-side team. I used to play for a team called Tadcaster Albion before I was scouted, and my dad turned around to me, and Brownie's little brother, actually, Steve, was used to play with me and him up front in a front two, and I remember he was driving me home, and I was only young, and he pulled over. He's just like a local cost cutter, like the shop or whatever.
He couldn't say to you while he was driving. He had to stop the car.
He went in. We were at the lights, and then he took a left, and he just said, yes, son. I'm gonna go with. There's another lad. He goes, I'm gonna go with Aiden, and I'm gonna go with Steve, Dave's brother. And you're just going to revert back into midfield. And I'm like, and I started to remember crying. I was like, it's my idol, mate. And I know this is going to make a lot of Leeds fans annoyed. No, it wasn't Alan Smith. I loved Viduka, but it wasn't Viduka. My idol when I was younger was Michael Owen. I loved Michael Owen. He was like my favorite player. So, yeah.
Is that why you got a bit defensive when I showed you that thread of Michael Owen saying stupid things over the years?
No, I didn't get. No, he's a moron now, but he was a brilliant. I loved at Liverpool. He was those 2 years he was unbelievable. Mate, he won the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, no, he was a great footballer. But before he got hurt a bunch. No, so just a short little bit. When I moved to Leeds and I was playing 7-a-side one time, and we were playing with this guy I didn't really know, like it was just our friends and a friend of a friend, and I kind of, I played in the defense, but on 7-a-side I would sort of venture forward, and her one time he goes, "You American?" He's like, "You played center half?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Play center half." That's what he said. Too many poor finish attempts. All right,
Andy
so
said, let's get into a few of these, mate, before you go on. It's easy to play good football when you don't care about defending. It's cheating, and you get. Andy's not. I don't know if he's just that he's getting a bit knocked off with all the Sunderland attention. I think he is. Look, we need to maybe give a little bit more credit to Burnley.
You want Andy on your coaching staff because he'll dig out players who are not. Mate,
and Andy lives about 15 minutes away from me, and he's we need to go and meet up for a coffee. He seems like a good guy. Most of the promotion money needs to be spent on the back half and recruiting champ. And brilliant comment here. No recruiting.
Just twice this guy's come with the thunder today.
There's a handful, yeah, but maybe only one I'd look at in the championship. But yeah, aside from that, I agree. 500 watching
top 5 league strikers. That's
Hit
what
the
I'm
like. Yeah, no, I get it though. I get it. I mean, Cage was saying the same thing. Will says, "Big up Albion." Tad says, "Delhi." Yes, Tad indeed. Right. What did you want to say, mate? Before we?
No, are you sticking with your prediction of 2-1 Leeds?
Yes, I am. I'm going to the game tomorrow. So yeah, it should be interesting. But yeah, I'm 2-1 Leeds. I'm going to stick with it. But I'm going to ignore my head, because my head does get, as you are quite right, Gabe. You are quite right. And I want you to start noting these down, by the way, because I'm useless.
I'm not going to write
I'm
them down.
absolutely useless.
But I will pull them up. Right. So
John as well said, John, I'll always give them credit, and they were bang on with this as well. Ethan online, I always give Ethan credit on here. He's called Jibber Jabber. It's fantastic takes. He was talking about Brentford and the strikers, and do you know Brentford went up with, I think it was Mbuemo, Visser, and Tony. That's what they went up with. That's unbelievable. Ethan was making that point. So shout out to Ethan and Lapause, the excellent accounts on Twitter. Well worth the follow. But
and then Fulham going up with that striker that scored 40 goals in the championship. Ridiculous. By the way, so I'm sticking with my 3-1. But for those of you who rejoice when Connor is made to look a little bit silly, so Connor last year posted, he found these notes that were given by his coaches while he was in the academy, right? So he put them on Instagram. He's just like, oh, look, memories, like, this is fun. I looked at one deep. I looked at one note. Do you remember they're like sort of like grade reports for players? You remember? Like,
did I put this on Instagram?
Yeah, you did. And one of them was like, Connor needs to get better at putting his head up, picking his head up when he has the ball. And I was like, interesting that he posted this one. Did he read?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. So it wasn't head up when he's got the ball. No, that was my major gripe. It was, he needs to get his head up when they always go down like 1-0 or 2-1, because he always gets in a strop.
Oh, is that what it meant?
Yeah. So my head. So
when they scored, you'd go.
Oh, no, my head just goes down. Yeah, that's the phrase. It's his head's gone down. Basically, I
thought for sure I read one that Connor needs to pick his head up when he's on the ball.
I was the biggest sore loser, and if it was me, I was my biggest critic. I hated anytime I gave the ball away. It was my fault, and I couldn't get out of my head for the whole game. It was my fault. I'd be kicking the turf. My mum would be like, she on the sideline, she'd be like, Connor, get your head up, and I'd be there like, fuck off, no.
What I really want someday, this is like my wish, get your old man on this show one of these days, because I'm just going to ask him, I'm going to be like, did you really pull over the car to tell Connor you were going to drop him into the midfield?
Oh, mate, yeah. We used to go on some car journeys around England. Jesus,
that's the best. Literally, I could just imagine the pulling up, put the car brake on, turning the engine off. You're like, I'm gonna drop you, son.
You're done. But Rai says Bogle definitely gets a card tomorrow, so that's a suspend. Yeah, he's on a tightrope right now. He's on an absolute tightrope. I mean, how do you feel about that? Are you okay with sort of like if Bogle's out, Byram up, then Schmidt being sort of deputies? Or
I'm happy with Schmidt getting more game time. Every time I've seen him, I've liked the way he played. So I'm not really sure what he's got to do to get in the team, but as long as it's not Byram. You're right.
That wouldn't happen.
One of those weird ones. It's not really impacting our season that much, but if it was, I'd probably be asking more questions.
Right. Okay. Are you going to go with the 2-1 as well? What are you going for?
3-1. I'm sticking with my original prediction.
3-1. Good stuff. Right, get your comments in the section below, everybody. There's been 1,000 of you in here on all platforms. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. If you are on Twitter, if you are on Facebook, make sure you convert over to YouTube, guys. You get the algorithm benefits. You get like a nice little join. You get, you can become a subscriber and all that sort of stuff. Make sure you do that. It's well worth it. We'll have more content coming out tomorrow. We'll be doing instant match reaction live from Bramall Lane. Hopefully, it's going to be a big win there. And make sure you get your comments in the section below. And me and Gabe, we'll see you at this time next Sunday. Cheers.
In a bit.